Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And welcome to Leveraging ChatGPT for Marketing Strategy. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. And so, as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. Second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please submit your questions for us in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls just to step back and see how everyone in the room is doing. So this first one is going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? And I'll give it just a few moments for everyone to think about it and submit a response here. Thank you for participating. Awesome. We got folks from Texas, Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Florida, California, Tennessee, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., Maryland, St. Kitts, Alabama, London, England, New Jersey, Denver, Colorado, Massachusetts. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to end this poll and share these results. Awesome. We see optimism in the lead. We always love to see that, but we definitely have some feelings of anxiety and surviving. Hopefully some of what we talk about in our conversation, some of those feelings. So I'm going to stop sharing this poll and launch that second poll. What is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one tells us a little bit about your current entrepreneurial needs so we can continue to develop relevant programming for all of you. Awesome. I'll give it just a couple more moments. We got folks from Virginia, Canada, Singapore, Paris, France, Louisiana. Awesome. Georgia. Welcome, everyone. So great to see people from all over the place. All right, I'll give it just another moment. And I'm going to end this poll and share these results. All right, it looks like we are tied between finance and marketing, sales close behind. We got needs all across the board, though. So thank you for participating, and we will take this into account as we keep developing new programming. Stop sharing that poll, and without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our two special guests, Hannah Nieves, founder and CEO of Haus in this Hudson studio, and Maritza Tobon, CMO of Haus. Hannah, Maritza, thank you both so much for being here. I'm super excited for this, and I'm going to pass it right over to you.
Amazing. And thank you so much for having us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I can't believe this is my second time coming and speaking to you guys. Last time was December of 2021. So everyone can go ahead and see my screen. Yes.
Okay. Looks all good.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to kick it off. And if we have some time at the end, we'll leave for Q&A. But we're going to be talking about leveraging ChatGPT for your own marketing. So I saw everyone dropping in the chat your location here, which is incredible. We have an international audience. For a second, we always love to engage our communities wherever we're speaking, but, drop a little bit more about your business, maybe drop your Instagram or LinkedIn handle on here, connect with one another. I saw our Instagram handle got shared in here as well. So if you're, taking behind the scenes or snapping photos, be sure to tag us at Haus on Instagram, and we're looking forward to connecting with you all. So why are we here? We are talking about ChatGPT and AI, and I want to know too, how many of you are already using ChatGPT and AI in your business? Drop in the chat. We're going to dive deep into this, and Maritza, we'll introduce ourselves in a second here. I see Erica is saying yes. So a lot of people are already using ChatGPT and AI. So you might be working with different clients and want to start leveraging these tools for either maybe content repurposing or customer engagement, or maybe you just want to use these tools for operational efficiency. That's a big one, and that's something that we did at our company as well. Maybe you want to learn how AI can be used to streamline your efforts and boost your productivity as the founder. And there are several tools that we'll mention today too around that. You might be thinking, how can I implement this for myself or my team? And we've had clients that have, run solo, some that have large teams, and it's really powerful no matter what level your business is at, you can use these tools. So, and lastly, you know how important this is for your business, and you want to be ahead of the curve, which is really, really powerful. So what's in it for you? In our last training, we did this as well, but we are going to be providing a ChatGPT 50 prompt library for participating. We'll share that at the end with you guys. We are going to be doing a part 2 of this training, which is really great. So Maritza will close it out with what the homework is going to be. And these ChatGPT prompts will be extremely helpful for you as a takeaway after our session. So just some housekeeping here, remove distractions. This is your time, so remember that. So put on do not disturb as I check mine, ask questions in the chat, and grab a beverage or two, and we're going to get started. So today's part 1 session of the training, we're going to be going over an introduction to ChatGPT and AI for business. It sounds like a lot of you here leverage the tools already, and maybe you're wanting to enhance what you're doing. So we're going to be talking about some practical applications of ChatGPT and also the future of AI in business. In part 2 of the training that we'll be doing in a few weeks, we'll be taking it even deeper. We're just going to be scratching the surface here, and there's so much that we can be covering together. So we're going to take it step by step. Okay, so a little bit more about me. My name is Hannah, and we essentially run a collection of companies that are all centered around the ethos of redefining the way that we live and work. So Haus is our community and education platform for 6- and 7-figure founders. We really specialize in business growth, marketing, visibility, PR, and tech and AI, thanks to Maritza as well, my CMO. We have This Hudson Studio, which is our creative rental studio. We also have This Hudson Farm, which is a 160-acre farm in New York. And then we also are working on an app. So we like to say we work on 59 projects at once. That's a little bit more about me. I'll pass it over to Maritza, who is our CMO.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here and to be chatting about this topic. It's going to be amazing. Please don't be shy, like Hannah said, and make sure that you are dropping any of your questions or thoughts into the chat. So I'm Maritza Tobon, and I am the CMO here at Haus. Prior to, I spent about 15 years in marketing across startups, also Fortune 50 companies such as Meta. And as the CMO at Haus, I am responsible for our brand marketing strategy, as well as integrating AI into the business. And like Hannah mentioned, we work across a number of different verticals with our clients. And so AI has played a big role with not only optimizing our own marketing as a company, but also how we are improving the service delivery for our clients. So we have a lot of really amazing things to share with you all, and I can't wait to get started.
Amazing. So we're going to get started with the foundations here before we start to build. So the landscape of business has changed drastically, right? Over the last few years since the pandemic, recession talks and so on, but the robots are here, right? And with technology changing, we're now in a place across almost every single industry type that we can streamline, cut costs down, become extremely productive in our day-to-day, whether it's sales or marketing or operations, just by even leveraging these tools. Marketing is also becoming more expensive. I saw in the poll at the beginning of the session, marketing was tied with something that keeps you up at night. And I know for the clients that we work with as well, it can be really, really overwhelming, especially if you have a smaller team or run solo, to have, the capabilities to manage the output of content and marketing that's required. How many of you resonate with that? So marketing and visibility have become more and more expensive, with these platforms also becoming more pay to play. And again, we're going to talk about how we can tie this into ChatGPT and AI. Also, attention is limited, right? We're getting bombarded with how-to and ads and buy now urgency. And there's so much information that's being consumed by the consumer that you have to really stand out in a saturated market, and it can be tough. And lastly, simplicity is the trend. And we have been seeing this across the board with clients who, are making a few $100,000 a year to clients who are at, the few $100 million a year, right? And I think a lot of companies are realizing that they can streamline their efforts and just operate more efficiently, run lean teams, have efficient models just by using these tools. So why does this matter? Why does anything matter, right? A shift towards AI, there's a shift towards simplicity. And that's the biggest focus that we want to hone in on here. And this is something that we noticed at our brands was that, originally when we first started hearing about, these apps kind of popping up here, and I just read this great article that was about, the new AI tools that were launched in the last month. And I forgot the exact statistic, but there's so many getting launched every single day. In the beginning, which I know for a lot of people, there was a little bit of the skepticism around ChatGPT and AI and how are we going to use this? Is this going to replace, our roles, our businesses? So instead of pushing against the wave, we realized there was a way that we could ride it, but also just become more efficient and utilize these tools in a way that works well for our brand. And that's the biggest piece, is that you have to stay authentic when you're using these tools. We also realized that these tools are here to help us save time and energy and could amplify our output. We're going to go over an exact example of how our brand utilizes these tools in our marketing process. And then we also realized that our marketing was complicated. Let me know if this resonates with any of you here. We realized we were using so many tools in our marketing process. We were churning out content across multiple platforms, and there was no connectivity between the marketing channels as a whole. So there was room for us to simplify. Maritza and I did this, it was like a few months ago. We went through a whole tech stack valuation and really simplified down everything that we were doing. And lastly, all the tools that you use for your company have AI built in, or at least most of them do, right? Whether it's, to consolidate or to streamline your efforts. If anyone here is familiar with like HoneyBook or Dubsado or ClickUp, we love ClickUp as a project management tool. All of these tools have AI built into it now, which is pretty incredible. So it's really just taking advantage of what you're already paying for. So how we leverage AI at the HN brands is, number one, market research. And when we get into the plugins of ChatGPT and how you can use this, it's going to blow your mind. But we're able to really understand our target demographic, what they're interested in, how we can support them, and also how we can create really strong messaging. So one of the things that we do, and Maritza will also talk about this later, is that we feed our ChatGPT and our AI tools with the information needed so they can understand our target demo to produce better work and outputs. We also leverage ChatGPT and AI for marketing repurposing. This is a big one. We've been able to streamline our efforts, refine the existing content, and leverage SEO-rich content just by using these platforms. I'll give you an example. We have a client of ours who is solo. She doesn't have a large team, and she is now able to level the playing field and have enough output on, I think it's now 5 or 6 different platforms compared to someone that has a 3 to 4 person, if not larger, marketing team, right? So it opens up so much opportunity. And then lastly, just operational efficiency. That's like the biggest piece. We leverage the AI tools built into the platforms we use, and we leverage the tools that save us time and money. So I want to show you guys our new marketing workflows just so you can get an example in here. Oh, and I see, oh, hi, Theodore. I recognize, oh my God, this is so great. See people in our community here. So this is what we're doing with our own marketing, just to give you guys an example. Now, again, remember that for some of you in here, this might not make sense. Having a podcast might not make sense for your company, and that is okay. But what we did was we looked at our marketing channels of distribution and we said, okay, what is our anchor piece of content? What's our anchor? So our podcast is our anchor, and everything else is built off of the podcast. And I'm speaking specifically for Haus here. So once a month now, I sit down, we batch record our podcast, which is a main channel for us, and we're able to capture long form content in one sitting. From there, that one piece of our podcast episode can be transcribed into a long form blog post content, right? With strategic keywords. It then gets shared and chopped up into Instagram and YouTube. And lastly, we leverage email to communicate this to our entire email list. So you can see how this one piece of content here is used in so many different formats and channels. So instead of having to churn out content and marketing for all of these pieces, we're starting with one and we're repurposing it in different ways. Because remember, people are going to consume your content in different ways, depending on their preferences. For me, I'm a podcast person. I listen to podcasts every single morning. But for some people, maybe like Maritza, she might enjoy, going on Instagram or going on YouTube and watching the videos on her YouTube channel. So these are just some of the tools that we're using. Remember, there's thousands out there, but we leverage ChatGPT, which is going to be a main focus for today. And this is where we're able to really leverage ChatGPT to learn more about our brand voice and tone. I know some of you in here had mentioned that's been the toughest thing of getting your ChatGPT to sound like you. We're going to cover that. We also leverage ChatGPT to repurpose content in written form. So once you actually train your ChatGPT in the proper way, it can manipulate the content that you feed it and give you different variations that you can use for multiple platforms, which is beautiful. You can also leverage it for market research. So if any of you in here collect customer satisfaction surveys, or maybe you collect, data and research and forms from your customers, you have tons of data to work with, and you can feed ChatGPT in order to, learn their preferences and, get new market research to learn for a new offer or a new service or a new product that you want to bring to market. And we've also leveraged ChatGPT to refine our messaging and copy just by understanding our clientele even more, which has been so incredible. For anyone in here that has a podcast, does anyone in here have a podcast? Drop in the chat if you do. If you do have a podcast, you definitely want to leverage Cast Magic. And if you want to check out AppSumo, sometimes they have a lifetime, subscription to Cast Magic. It is an incredible tool. Does anyone in here use Cast Magic? Drop in the chat. So we use Cast Magic to streamline our podcast efforts. It is incredible. You need to check it out after this training. You can just put it into the audio into Cast Magic. It will produce the show notes, the timestamps, quotes, clips, script for reels, content for threads, email in one tool. One tool. So one button, and then you can do all of this, which is so incredible. And it saves our team so much time. We also use Munch as well to repurpose long form content. There's also Opus clips as another one here. And again, going back to that repurposing plan I just mentioned, we take the podcast, we take that long form podcast and put it through these tools to create all of the different clips that we need that goes on Instagram, that goes on YouTube Shorts. So again, we're not creating new. We're just taking what we have and creating different variations of it. So what's really helpful is then you can optimize, the clips that you have automatic editing, auto captioning, just by this one tool. And then you have Descript as well, right? And this really helps with the editing process for video, filler word removals, optimizing podcast recordings and things like that. Again, if you do a lot of video content, which I know for a lot of people in our community is a big focus for them, this might be a fantastic tool for you guys to take a look at. So as far as leveraging the existing platforms, again, we're just giving you a few examples here. We use HoneyBook for our own business for processing payments and CRM, but HoneyBook has AI built in. They just released this incredible new tool where when new leads come in, it will tell you if that lead is more of a chance to move forward versus others, which I think is incredible. Project management, we use ClickUp in here, and ClickUp has some incredible tools for AI, Zapier, and Maritza's favorite is MeetGeek. So if anyone uses those, note-taking AI tools, MeetGeek I have seen has the best summaries of any type of meeting, which is really, really helpful. And you can also have the audio of the meeting as well, so you can always go back if you ever forget anything. So what does this all mean for you? Well, a lot of things. Number one, now with these tools, you can track customer and client insights at the touch of a button, right? I say in the olden days, right? This was something that you had to have someone sit there and manually track. But now with the use of technology, we can have this in minutes. You can automate and streamline your company efficiency and operations, helping you save time and money, which at the end of the day, I know for a lot of business owners that are probably even here as well, you are either bootstrapping, maybe you're raising funding for your company, and your time and money is really, really important. We need to make sure that we are stretching that and getting the most out of it. And of course, you can amplify your marketing efforts to be in more places, spending more time and more money. And I think that's a beautiful thing with, ChatGPT and AI tools is that it has allowed us to level the playing field. And Maritza and I talk about this, at our 12 a.m. chats on Slack, but we talk about how this has leveled the playing field for startup companies that maybe don't have millions of dollars to go and spend on their marketing or their teams, right? Or, people from marginalized communities or people who don't have access to the capital to be able to compete with these companies that have it. Now it is available to so many people, which I think is such a beautiful thing. And again, this allows you to ultimately drive back to your mission and vision. For me personally, and also my team, it's saved us so much time and money where we can realign our focuses a little bit more and also not be in the day-to-day of these small micro tasks because we're able to actually automate them. So I don't know about you, but that's a beautiful thing. So how do we get started here? We talked about the foundations here. Now we need to make sure that we're building, number one, the right tech stack that is needed. I saw some of you mention you use Cast Magic or using ChatGPT. No, we are not affiliated with ChatGPT. We just love it. So in order to actually set this up, we need to actually build the tech stack with intention. Like I mentioned before, one of the things that we realized was that we were just overspending in so many different areas of marketing and tech. So we want to make sure that this is streamlined and simplified. Yeah, I don't even think they have an affiliate program. Okay. So first things first, and this is something that I always do because it's so easy, especially on these trainings to get really tactical and strategy focused and dive into the small details. I encourage all of you, when you come back and watch a replay, I want you to stop and zoom out for a second. All right. Let's get grounded here. So we want to define our objectives. So I want you to think about, what are the current bottlenecks in your marketing and company infrastructure right now? Do you lack support? Do you lack time? Do you lack money? Maybe it's a little bit of all three, but what are the current bottlenecks? For some of you in here, I think that, you might be the face of your company, right? So your marketing might rely on you, and that's something that you definitely want to call out. And then I want you to think about, who is going to be implementing? Is this you? Is this your team? And where's your team getting tapped with capacity right now? And then I want you to think about what the company goals are in the next 3 to 5 years. I want you to think about revenue. I want you to think about marketing, and I want you to think about product, right? Think ahead. It is so easy as founders, and I fall short of this, to get in the day-to-day where we can't zoom out and actually see, wait, where is this ship going? And then I want you to think about, what problem are you looking to solve by streamlining your marketing efforts? Is it to increase efficiency, optimization of your platforms, or maybe a little bit of both? So you want to identify your tech stack. And I want you to think about, what is the main content hub for you in terms of your marketing channels? For some of you in here, I saw we had an immigration attorney. Maybe LinkedIn is your main channel, or maybe it's Instagram. I don't know. I've actually worked with several attorneys that are doing very well on TikTok. So what is the main anchor platform? Where do you feel most comfortable showing up for your company in terms of marketing? Where do your leads come from, right? And if you don't track this, we probably need to go back and figure out, how can we actually track your leads? Because this is really, really important. And where is your audience showing up? Where are most people consuming your content? I know for us, it's been our podcasts, it's been Instagram, and our email list. Those 3 platforms and tools have been so powerful for us. And lastly, how much time do you have to dedicate to your content creation? Listen, I know a lot of you in here are professionals, or you have startup companies. We might have some content creators in here, but usually the majority of clients that we work with are not content creators, right? So they don't have endless amounts of time to go and produce marketing collateral for their business. They're working with their clients. So get realistic with how much time you actually have, because this is all going to play into the rest of our training in our part 2. So just to recap here before Maritza takes over on ChatGPT, we talked about the foundations. We talked about an example of how we use ChatGPT and AI and our repurposing plan. We talked about the foundations of setting goals and objectives, and also defining the tech stack that is needed. That is the first phase that you have to go through before you start leveraging these tools. Okay, so I'm going to take it over, or hand it over to Maritza here.
Great. Okay, so let's jump into how you can start to build your own content machine through ChatGPT. And there were a couple of comments that came through in the chat, just on ChatGPT as a whole. And I just want to clarify that ChatGPT is a tool that is built by OpenAI. And so OpenAI has the technology behind ChatGPT to make this sort of conversational tool that we can all leverage. And so ChatGPT is just a tool built by this company. And because of that, they don't really have, any sort of like affiliate program or anything like that, though they are now having brand partners. And this is how you're starting to see other tools pop up in the market that are tapping into the back end of what ChatGPT is built off of to now create additional tools and things like that. So first, in order for ChatGPT to give you the absolute best outputs, you really need to understand how you should approach the tool. And so the very first thing that we always recommend is to think of it as, your secret weapon and your go-to for creating your content or anything that you're looking to dive into further within your business. It can do almost all of the work for you, which in turn is going to make your job easier and more efficient. So it can produce things that are 98% of the way there. Next is approach ChatGPT as if it were a new team member in your company. So just like you would with any new hire, you want to make sure that you have a training plan in place for this new hire and that you're going to provide your hire with clear instructions and examples so that it can do its best work. Next, you want to think, or one thing that I want to call out, like I mentioned, is that ChatGPT was created by OpenAI, and that technology is exclusive to OpenAI. So there's a lot of tools sometimes that are tapping into other networks and other companies and using their large language models, which is what ChatGPT is. And then they're claiming, that they're like ChatGPT and it can do this, that, or the other. And just be wary of companies that are claiming those things because, again, ChatGPT is exclusive to OpenAI. And last is that this tool is designed to carry a conversation. So it's there for you to chat with, not just to find information. So when you're using ChatGPT, you really want to make sure that you are approaching it as if you were talking to a colleague or a friend so that you can get the best results. I want to jump into your inputs versus prompts and what this all looks like. So a lot of times I see people fall into wanting to use prompts with ChatGPT first to get it to produce some form of content or research, etc. And there's a big piece that is missing in that approach, which is why ChatGPT will then give you results that you might not be really happy with, right? Or they sound very common or they don't sound like you. And it's because ChatGPT is missing your inputs. So when you are first training your ChatGPT, you want to provide it with context, you want to give it background info, you want to share what your POV is and what your intellectual property is with ChatGPT so that it understands what you are now going to ask it to do. And so then your prompts, they're now asking ChatGPT for the result that you want it to produce, right? So this is the how to do it, and this is the end result that you want ChatGPT to produce. But without your input, you're not going to get your desired end result. ChatGPT fails when it lacks instruction. And that is really important to know because, again, a lot of times, if you just dive in and you're utilizing prompts, you're going to feel discouraged with using the tool because the prompt isn't really providing this detailed information to ChatGPT in order for it to produce its best results. And so one of the things that I encourage you to start with is a writing framework. It's really important that, as a business, you have some sort of writing framework that you are utilizing within your work so that you can use that information to further instruct and guide ChatGPT. So when you have a writing framework, you are going to know exactly what to write and how to write. It's going to help maintain consistency in your messaging. It's going to help captivate and persuade your audience. It's going to lead your audience to take an action, and it's going to help you get better outputs from ChatGPT. And there are several different writing frameworks that you can explore. And I'm going to give you a tip after I go through a couple of them. So first, you have AIDA, and this is attention, interest, desire, action. Then you have PAIPS, and this is problem, agitate, intrigue, positive future, and solution. Then you have something like BAB, and this is before, after, and bridge. And then you have something like the 4 Ps, which is focused on picture, promise, proof, and push. And so if you're wondering, well, how can I know what my writing framework is, right? You can take some of your written work and plug that into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to analyze your writing for you and say, based on, my writing, what is my writing framework? And this is how you start diving into how you write and structure your work, so that when you're working with ChatGPT, you're able to bring it back to your writing and how you want your work structured. So whether you're asking it for long form content, a caption, show notes, literally anything, even research, it's going to know how to write in a style that is more like you, which is going to lead you to having results that are 98% of the way there. So just to recap here, we talked about the shift in the marketplace and how AI fits in. We walked through how to define your company goals and your objectives. We've outlined the understanding of ChatGPT and AI and the tools that you can use. And we broke down how to start to build your AI tech stack. So what's next? Here's your homework. I want you to go through onboarding your ChatGPT. So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to gather your website, your social media links, any relevant work that you have out there. Then if you have a brand guide or a tone of voice or any sort of documentation already on how you write, how you speak, the language that you use, go ahead and get all of those documents together. Then start gathering your best writing examples, whether it's a long form blog that you have done, if it's a LinkedIn article, maybe it's some LinkedIn post, Instagram captions, anything that you would consider some of your best work that really, really sounds like you. Start putting all of those together. And lastly, gather any of your client reviews, survey information, any testimonials, just any details that you have about your customers so that you can start to train your ChatGPT. And you are going to just start plugging all of this into ChatGPT to give it as much context as possible about you, your business, how you write, the words that you use, how you structure your written works, and who you are creating this content for, which is arguably the most important. And so once you have done that, we are going to pick this up on part 2 so that we can put all of that together and start to create your own brand book and voice and style guide using ChatGPT, which will then take and train other ChatGPT chats that you create so that it's always on brand and sounds exactly like you.
All right.
Now we can dive into Q&A.
All right. Let me stop sharing here. Can you guys see me? Yes, we're back.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah and Maritza. That was such an incredible presentation. We already have so many questions coming in the chat. So if you are in the audience and you have a question for Hannah or Maritza, please make sure to submit that in the Q&A box. We'll try to get to as many as possible. So let's dive right in. Maritza, could you maybe talk briefly about how entrepreneurs might determine whether to invest in the paid version of ChatGPT and kind of just considering entrepreneurs who might be at different stages of business?
Yes, that's a great question, and it comes up for us a lot. And I would say that if you plan on using ChatGPT long-term, it's worthwhile to invest in the paid plan. It's at a lower cost than a lot of other tools that are out there and can produce better work than some of those tools as well. And here's an example. There's a tool that I love. It's called copy.ai. and it can create, different copy for you. They're connected to the back end of OpenAI, so they're using the same GPT technology, et cetera. However, copy AI is limited by whatever, they've invested into OpenAI. So you're not able to like fully customize copy AI to sound like you. Whereas if you eliminate the middleman and just go straight into your chat GPT, you can achieve the same results as you would with copy AI by just training your chat GPT into those things, right? So that's kind of like a measure. And again, I love copy AI, and this isn't like anything against them. It's just if you're really looking into, hey, how can I save cost and maximize my investments? This is where I would say, go to something, invest in the plus for ChatGPT. Also, having this plus plan is what's going to allow you to use a lot of the ChatGPT plugins, as well as GPT-4, which is their most advanced and creative model. And it's also going to give you access to code interpreter, which is what you want to use if you analyze a lot of data. So if there's a lot of Excel sheets in your world, you want to be able to utilize code interpreter. So just with those features in and of themselves, the plan is very worthwhile.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned the plugins, which is another thing I was going to ask about. We had a couple entrepreneurs asking about just kind of like, what are some examples of the plugins? Like, how do they work? How can entrepreneurs kind of like determine like the like whether to kind of make use of those tools?
Yes, that is a great question. And the plugins that you decide to use inside of ChatGPT are going to be very dependent on the type of business that you have, as well as what that individual chat is for. And so when I talked about treating your ChatGPT as an employee, each chat could be a certain new hire in your company. So if you're onboarding a social media specialist chat, to if you're onboarding, a research specialist chat, you might utilize different plugins between the two, which you are able to do on, the plus plan. You can toggle back and forth between your different plugins. We love the ones that allow you to drop in a link, and access the internet. Also, we have one that's called Ask Your PDF, because we have a lot of PDF forms, that come in from our clients. And so we're able to like chat with those PDFs, and it's amazing. That's one of our favorite ones. And then we also use another one called Photorealistic, which gives us prompts for Midjourney, which is another AI tool that helps to like generate image content and things like that. So it's definitely based on your business. But when we do our part two, for that one, definitely, come as comfortable as possible, because we are just going to put our hairs back, and dive into ChatGPT. You'll be able to see visually what the whole plugin environment looks like and which ones we personally use and recommend.
That's super helpful. And honestly, I'm on the free version. I didn't know. I know there's so many entrepreneurs who are like, there's tools out there that can kind of like read the web for you and turn it into text, and then you put that into ChatGPT. But like knowing that there's just like a direct plugin, if you were to invest in the paid version, like that's really good to know. So awesome. That's great.
And that's also helpful with like from a market research perspective. That's one of the things that we did with the new product and app that we're building too. We were able to feed it basically like a lot of the customer like feedback surveys and like insights that we have, for our brand. And it was able to manipulate into, beautiful charts and give us information about them, their, buying styles and things like that. And it was really, really helpful just to have like those plugins available.
Totally. Oh, that's awesome. And so Hannah, it's kind of switching gears a little bit. You spoke early on about this idea of repurposing one form of content for several marketing purposes. And I love your illustration of kind of how you make it work with podcasting. Could you maybe talk about some other examples of like forms of content that can be repurposed for further marketing, and how entrepreneurs might determine what their like anchor content hub is if they have like a presence on several platforms?
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually going to tie into like the first training we did almost 2 years ago, which was on social media and how to leverage social media. So, for us specifically, like I said, we use the podcast, you use Instagram. I was reading the chat here and I know some people mentioned like LinkedIn is their main channel. Drop again if you haven't dropped in like what your channels of marketing distribution are. I'd love to see. But as far as defining, what that is for you, it really depends on your ideal client as well. At the end of the day, when we have, I know there's a lot of service-based businesses here, and, say you work with more B2B, or maybe you work with larger corporate entities or clients, LinkedIn might be your main channel. And that's a fantastic tool, which, by the way, if you don't use LinkedIn, highly recommend, because a small percentage of people on there even produce content. So if it's say not the podcast, but say it's a LinkedIn, and I know this probably could do its own session here, but LinkedIn, you have the ability to produce short form pieces of content via the news feed. You have your LinkedIn articles, which are long form. So maybe for some of you in here, this might be, like once a month, I'm producing a longer form LinkedIn article. And this could be a repurposed, or not repurposed, but a long form piece of content from a video, or maybe you're a writer and you just love writing content. So you can use ChatGPT to help support you in that process, or you produce it. And then you could also feed into ChatGPT to help you with different variations for social media. So whether it's taking LinkedIn as your anchor, repurposing that to Instagram, maybe sharing a different variation to your blog, so you can see how you can use it depending on your style. I work well on video and audio. Those are like my favorite channels. If you ask me to go and sit down and write a blog post, it's not going to happen. So I think you also need to get clear on what excites you and what you're interested in doing. Because if you try to put yourself in a box of creating 2 TikTok videos a day, even though when you don't like to do video, it's not going to perform well. So start with the anchor, with the most used channel, or the channel that you get most excited about as well, because it will always perform well.
Yeah, I love that idea of like just recognizing that like it's important to kind of like be excited about like this content that you're putting out, because it will be hard for your customers to be excited if you're not excited, and or just whoever you're interacting with that you're trying to like connect with the business. So I just love that idea. So we have a couple entrepreneurs asking about how they might effectively protect their proprietary information when using ChatGPT. Do you have any insight on like what steps entrepreneurs might take to maintain a sense of security over, their insight?
I'll let Maritza also share some of that as well. But one of the things that we did, especially as we started to navigate using AI, using ChatGPT, we have several lawyers on our roster as well. So I asked them all different specialties. I was like, okay, so how is this impacting your industry, right? Because when you think about it, and those are very valid points, right? You want to make sure not just proprietary information, but you want to make sure that you are ethically using these tools in the proper way for businesses. And I think that's like the biggest piece to as well, when it comes to copywriting, plagiarism, and things like that. Like you want to make sure that you are leveraging these tools in the highest, most useful way. But you also have to make sure, and this just is a given for any of my trademark attorneys in this room, you also want to make sure that your brand is protected. Number one, that's a big piece too. So making sure that you either have copyrights or trademarks, set up for your products and your services and your brand, right? For a lot of these tools, yes, they're so new, they're still learning everything. Which, by the way, tools like Zoom and all these other tools that you probably use every single day also capture your proprietary information as well. So keep that in mind. It's not just ChatGPT and AI, even the tools that you use and leverage right now are taking your data and information that you use on these platforms. But number one, make sure your brand is protected. This is like first and foremost. 2, if you are, like Maritza said, right, when you're using ChatGPT, you need to make sure that you are feeding it proper information to get the info that you want on the output. And if you are just using it kind of aimlessly, right? And you're not thinking about, okay, I'm just going to take this copy and not even look at it to see, does it align with me? Are there any errors? And even like doing a cross check for plagiarism, things like that, like that's the due diligence and the responsibility that we have as users by using these platforms too. I don't know if Maritza, you want to share any other insights there?
Yeah, I think that that's great. And it also just boils down to familiarizing yourself with the terms and conditions of absolutely any platform that you use, and that you understand how using that platform, how they are processing your data. As far as ChatGPT is concerned, in your ChatGPT settings, you can actually turn off data sharing. So, however, when you do that, you might need to prompt and retrain more of your chats more frequently, because it's not able to, save any of that information. So that's, kind of one caveat of doing that. And another thing is like follow the founders, of these companies, so that you can also see how they are addressing privacy and data issues. Like for OpenAI specifically, their founder just went on Twitter yesterday or the day before. I sent it to Hannah right away. And he was like, I want to set the record straight that we are not using any of the data from our API to train our models. And he's talking specifically to really big business that is like if you're plugging into the ChatGPT API directly to build your own tool or technology, he wanted to set the record straight that they are not using your customers' data basically, to train the model. So again, I think that just kind of keeping up with what's going on there is really important, as well as like fact checking any of the work that gets produced from ChatGPT to ensure that they haven't mixed in like your content, with like other things that might be copywritten works.
Right. Yeah. I think that's so important to kind of just, a lot of entrepreneurs will kind of wonder, like, as this is just new technology and there are so many changes and regulations that are new, and, just how to stay in the know about what's going on with privacy concerns. So I think that's just like a really great, simple way of like, kind of like, follow the source. Generally, they're very open about like these issues, and kind of like coming on social media and talking about it. So I think that's just like a great simple tip if you're looking to kind of like stay up to date about what's going on with these issues as regulations and the technology is changing.
So I just want to, because one of our viewers, Roy, he mentioned that, to be clear, LLMs are designed for believability, not accuracy. If you need facts, figures, titles, references to be correct, you cannot rely on an LLM for that as of yet. I agree and disagree on that, because it's really also, again, based on our inputs, which is why I led with that versus prompting, which is what most people do, right? They're like, oh, prompted to do this, prompted to do that. However, when you're giving context to ChatGPT and also having it fact check itself and provide references and sources for where it's getting its information, you will actually get facts from the platform. But if you're just going back and forth, to brainstorm or whatever, then yes, you're going to have to do your own due diligence to make sure that the content is factual, relevant, etc.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's a great distinction. Thank you. And I think we have time for one more question. So Maritza, could you maybe, oops, where did that question go? Sorry, give me one moment. We have so many questions coming in. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So, okay, here we go. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of just wondering about like how some of these tools kind of play into like the sales strategy, because marketing and sales are so intertwined. So can you maybe talk about like how these strategies kind of translate into like potentially like optimizing like other parts of the business, in alignment with your marketing strategy as kind of like a core, like the foundation.
I'll let Maritza, if you want to start, I can talk about from a sales process too, but if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. So I think, you have to start again, understanding your own sort of funnel and what is the ultimate outcome that you are leading your customers or your audience to. Mm-hmm. And from there, you can start to, and this is, Hannah had talked about this earlier, like when we did our big tech stack audit, that also involved like really looking deeply at our customer journey and those interactions so that we can decide how we were going to optimize through AI or through consolidating some of our tech stack to better serve our customer. But I think, your customer experience as a whole plays a big role in determining, how you then go from your marketing strategy to how that informs sales, and just having that cohesive message and experience, no matter where your customer is finding your brand or interacting with you or your team. I think that that's going to be really important to let you know, like what you actually need in terms of tools and or training.
I love that. Hannah, anything to add?
I would say too, especially on the sales process side of things, one of the things, to piggyback off of what Maritza said as well, we're going through a whole process right now of streamlining our entire sales process from start to finish. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this like concept that I keep seeing that's coming up on podcast episodes, which is like the $1 million solo business. And I'm so fascinated by it. I know Maritza, anytime you see articles on it, we're always sharing it back and forth, but you're seeing people who have these $1 million businesses plus who are leveraging these tools and streamlining their sales processes so that they can run with themselves and maybe 1 to 2 other people, and that's it. And like, for example, there's a great tool like Typeform, which some of you might be familiar with, but they have a beautiful tool called Video Ask, where you can incorporate video capabilities into this entire sales process from start to finish. So there's tools out there to help streamline, because I think the archaic, I say the olden days ways of doing things, whether it's in construction, my husband's in the construction field, right? Or even in the interior design space or the marketing agency. I saw there was a question here from a marketing agency owner, right? Where typically you're inquiring to get on a consultation, then you go through the proposal, then you send them the proposal, and then the entire sales process typically takes for some clients, a few weeks or a few months. But now with these tools, you can collapse the time down. And again, people want speed and efficiency, and they want to make decisions quickly, right? Time is important to them. So I think those are just some of the things that we're looking at for our companies when it comes to using AI and tech, when it comes to our own sales process, because at the end of the day, it's about running lean.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Hannah, Maritza, this has been such an incredible session. If you each had one key takeaway that you wanted to leave with the audience, what would that be? And I'll start with you, Maritza.
I would say lead with context always. Whenever you start a conversation with ChatGPT, think about, just leading with, hey, let me tell you everything that you need to know so that you can give me the best possible answer. And if there's some information that is missing, ask me what those details need to be. That way you can then provide it further guidance if it does ask you any questions.
Yeah, love it. Hannah?
So for what I would recommend, especially as a takeaway too, and again, this is where Maritza and I are counterparts here. I highly encourage all of you founders to zoom out. It is so easy. Like I said, especially when we get to training number 2, where we're going to roll up our sleeves, put our hair back, and we're going to be talking about, the nitty gritty details. But it is really, really important as founders to not get caught up with just the trends of things, right? Because for some people, this could be a trend, right? And does it make sense? Whatever it is. but really making sure that you are so crystal clear on why you're doing this, getting crystal clear on the goals of the business and how this plays into that larger goal and initiative, and always go back to the vision. Like I said, it's so easy to get caught in these micro details, but make sure that you leave time to zoom out as well.
Love it. Well, Hannah, Maritza, thank you both so much for being here on behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone here today. We're just so grateful that you both joined us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using that link in the chat. Be sure to look out for the part 2 of this session, which is coming up on September 15th. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.